Dear viewers of Equinoxe Television, 6 p.m. by 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the news. We begin right away with our major stories. Today, Cameroon joins the rest of the world to observe the World AIDS Day. It comes at a time most people, especially in Cameroon, used to be more precise, seeing the pandemic is over. What is the role played by youth in combating HIV and AIDS in Cameroon? We will be telling you more in this edition of the news. And legal minds in Cameroon say the arrest of some Cameroonians in the US of A for terrorism would sure have an impact on the Anglophone crisis back home. Stay with us for details and more. Welcome back, viewers. We just told you in the headlines in health that today, December 1, 2022, Cameroonians are joining the rest of the world to observe the World AIDS Day today. And the World AIDS Day comes at a time many youth in Cameroon think the pandemic is over in relation to their sexual habits. What is the role played by youth in combating HIV and AIDS in our society? Our reporter Lucille Yengu Ese spoke with some youths in the city of Douala. Here is her report.
Statistics of 2021 has proven that 1.71 million adolescents between the ages of 10 and 19 are living with HIV and AIDS worldwide. Adolescents account for about 5% of all people living with HIV and AIDS. According to reports, this is due to the inadequate use of contraceptives, HIV and AIDS education, and unsafe behavior. Talking to some youth in the city of Douala, they say they are scared of carrying out the screening test. Yes, I'm scared of going for the test, because in Cameroon, the government has no control of certain things. Even in barbing salons, we can get infected by the virus using the shaving machines, which are not disinfected sometimes, so we can get the virus anywhere. Some also say they don't find it necessary carrying out the test because to them there are more relevant issues plaguing the society, like malaria, cholera, hardship. In fact, to them, the country has more issues than HIV and AIDS. While many say they are not informed of the screening campaigns launched in schools, hospitals, making it difficult for them to know their status. Why this lady says she is yet to go for a screening test, which to her is important as a woman. She adds that the increase in the number of HIV and AIDS cases in Cameroon is a call for concern, so she's encouraging every woman to go for the test. The 34th edition of the World's HIV and AIDS Day had as theme Rock the Ribbon.
And now we take you to the northern regions of the country, where the Boko Haram insurgency is said to be affecting women and young girls more. They are either sexually assaulted, killed, or used as suicide bombers. So the UN, the civil society, and the personnel of the Ministry of Justice here in Cameroon met in the city of Maroua to seek ways of combating that ill. Let's now have the report of Innocent Aze.
The persistent Boko Haram attacks, including intercommunal clashes, are known to be affecting women the most. They are either victims of rape or aggression. Many naive women have been exploited for suicide bombers by Boko Haram insurgents.
Les VBG sont encore plus récurrents qu'en période de stabilité.
As a way to remedy this situation, the Cameroon Justice Ministry and women from the United Nations Organization organized a capacity building workshop to render the women resilient in the face of the security challenges.
Alors nous sortons de cette activité.
With the acquired skills, we hope to use the means at our disposal to efficiently tackle the sexual abuses, aggression that women in the far north region face.
D'apporter, n'est-ce pas, une réponse.
Coordinating the come together that also grouped civil society actors, medics and legal minds for a period of 3 days. Salatu Baba, the Attorney General at the Far North Court of Appeal, who represented the Minister of Justice and Keeper of the Seals, urged the participants to use the acquired skills to lead vulnerable women and young girls in the far north region to the justice path.
Bien d'autres acteurs ont un rôle très important à jouer dans la lutte contre les VBG et pour faciliter l'accès des victimes aux services appropriés.
Salatu Baba also tasked the stakeholders present to work and protect these women from being continuously abused, to also pursue perpetrators of this violence for punishment.
And now stakeholders in the city of Douala are seeking ways of reducing deforestation or the indiscriminate felling of trees. They are meeting in the city of Douala to brainstorm on how wood exploitation could be more sustainable. Let's now have more in this report with Immaculate Fogwe.
The excessive extraction of timber beyond the stipulated limits has been advanced by environmentalists as the major cause of climate change in Cameroon. Global demand for wood has caused companies and people to continue encroaching Cameroonian forests. Experts have decried rising global temperatures and alteration of local climate conditions, which have led to fatalities and equally disrupted farming seasons. Aware of the dangers, a dialogue on sustainable wood for a sustainable world was organized in the city of Douala. The dialogue has as objective strengthening the domestic wood value chain.
And what we want is to together agree on what are the priorities and how we can work together to make the Center for Promotion of Wood support the development of a value chain that will generate forests, the environmental sustainability, but also generate income and employment in an inclusive manner.
Cette initiative est importante parce qu'elle fait partie.
Based on the outcome of the dialogue, the Cameroonian government will support efforts of restructuring the Center for Wood Promotion. This work is aligned with Cameroon's development strategy, which identifies the forestry wood sector as a pillar of industrial development.
Dans le cas de la SND 30.
As a result, the forestry wood sector is expected to grow an average of 4.5% per year between 2021 and 2030.
And now you all know that some 3 Cameroonians with the American nationality have been arrested in the U.S. For fueling allegedly the Anglophone crisis back in Cameroon. And Legal Minds in Douala told a reporter for me, Armstrong Sanders, that the indictment of those Cameroonians in the U.S. might have an impact back home concerning the Anglophone crisis. Let's now have his report.
To the renowned lawyer and militant of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, the indictments of Chi Claude, Francis Cheney and La Nestor by the U.S. Justice Department will have a say on the turn of events in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon.
We will feel it here back home because they have already maybe removed some of those bad grains that are continue to fuel the crisis in Cameroon.
Highlighting that terrorism is a global threat fought against by every country on planet Earth, the Legal Mind says their punishment will only depend on if they are found guilty.
If the United States have taken the lead or steps to indict Cameroon-born separatists, all we need is that they should make sure that the charges are sufficient and that the allegations are genuine and that they have sufficient proof to find them guilty. So if they are found guilty, then it is but normal.
He thinks that the move is good for Cameroon, which has been a victim since 2016.
Since 2016, Cameroon is victim of acts of terrorism and financing of terrorism. So if persons have been indicted with those charges in the United States in relation to the crisis that is being lived in Cameroon, I think is something that we should welcome it, because
according to a statement attributed to the United States Justice Department, the 3 U.S. citizens of Cameroonian origin are charged in a 4-count indictment returned under seal by a federal grand jury in Kansas City, Missouri on November 18, 2022. The indictment alleges that Chi, Cheney and Langmi have supported and raised funds for separatist fighters in Cameroon since January 1st, 2018.
And the steering committee of speakers and presiding officers of the Commonwealth African region held a meeting in Yaoundé to prepare for the 2023 conference to be hosted by Cameroon. Glory Mala completes the story for us.
Preparations are heightened towards the 18th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth for the African region. The preparation meeting that was held in Yaoundé confirmed Cameroon to host the conference come 2023.
The Standing Committee meeting, now opening, will be devoted mainly to finalizing the preparation for the 18th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth Africa region, to be hosted by Cameroon next year, 2023.
The steering committee meeting of speakers and presiding officers of the Commonwealth Africa region brought together high government officials. The participants discussed over the agenda, program and theme of the next conference.
We should be able to have an agenda, a program for the 18th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers, the theme of the conference and the topics to be discussed, as well as updates on Cameroon's preparedness to host the highly awaited regional event.
It is also a tradition for the Commonwealth Africa region to come together like this in order to be updated on Cameroon's preparedness to host the event.
Before the conference takes place, it is normally preceded by the Standing Committee of the Commonwealth Speakers Conference. So what is taking place here is the meeting of the Standing Committee of the Commonwealth Speakers and the Presiding Officers Conference. The purpose of this meeting is really to set the agenda for the upcoming 18th Conference of Speakers of the Commonwealth Africa region.
The meeting will permit a close collaboration between members of the Commonwealth Africa region and also to encourage regional integration in Africa.
Now we talk sports. In Qatar, 7 out of the 8 stadiums in Qatar hosting the World Cup are all air-conditioned, and doctors in Qatar say the air does not have any effect on either the fans or the players. They were explaining all of those in a conference in Qatar, which was also attended by our special envoy, Smart Jikan Gabriel.
Journalists covering the FIFA World Cup were in a sensitization workshop at the conference room of the local organizing committee. It was an opportunity for these journalists to be schooled on the reasons behind the air conditioning of stadia during the World Football Jamboree. 7 out of the 8 stadia used for the FIFA World Cup have cooling systems.
We have 8 stadiums. From these 8 stadiums, 7 are cooled, and 1, which is 974, is passively cooled. The meaning of passively cooled, that it's only for the winter time, and we design the containers, spacing, shapes, and how they're oriented in order to induce a lot of flow.
The air conditioning within these stadia were well planned.
Air conditioning for stadiums is a dream for a lot of countries, especially in the hot areas. Our systems are all controlled by a computer and a lot of sensors around the stadiums in order to make sure that we are all more or less controlling the temperature around between 20 to 23 degrees C.
Even the air conditioning within the stadia, players are not directly affected since it wasn't meant for them.
Because players, all the time, they exert a lot of physical work, and the way that they cool themselves is by sweat. When they sweat, what will happen to that sweat? Start to evaporate, and the vaporization process needs some heat, so it will absorb the heat from the player's body, and by doing this, it will cool the player down. That's why for the players, we don't control temperature, we control that index, which is the amount of moisture in the air. That's for the players.
But only the fans do feel the fresh air.
For the fans, we went extra for the first time. We wanted the fans as well to feel relaxed. Each one of us, while in a sitting position like this, we're emitting a lot of biofluids, let's say, into the area around us. So we spill some air, some hair, some skin, and about 70 grams of moisture per 1 hour while you're sitting, not even cheering, in sitting position like this.
According to Dr. Saud Ghani, the brain behind these cooling systems, the stadia being used for the FIFA World Cup are expected to last for the next 100 years.
Stadiums, when we calculate their lifetime, is to serve their neighborhood for the next 100 years. 100 years, these buildings will be at this neighborhood, and that's why I go to Al Bayt Stadium. Al Bayt Stadium, when we received the site, it was barren desert. Now you go, you find lakes, you'll find animal life, ducks, birds, and you'll find a lot of green areas, and people use it.
Qatari authorities are now hoping to extend this cooling technology to other stadia within the country after the World Cup comes to an end.
Qatar to the world.
Now we stay in Qatar to tell you about Doha. Do you know about Doha? Do you know that Doha, at first, in about 10 years, it was just like a desert full of wells where people fetch water, and that transformation from the desert to the city of Doha was done in less than 10 years. And as the authorities of Doha organized a press conference to explain to visitors on how that transformation was successfully done in 10 years, that is, from a desert to a city. Staff man Smanti Khan Gabriel also attended that conference. He tells us more about that transformation in this report.
Several years back, Mishrep, that is in the heart of Qatar, was a desert. It is a place that many queued up to draw water from well. 20th century saw Mishrep metamorphosed from a trading town to wealthy capital of the independent Qatar, following the discovery of oil on the peninsula in 1939. Mishrep can now boast of energy supply without interruption.
We do produce energy by using a solar panel. It's a 6,400 BVC panel which generate 1.57 megawatt. We also having a 1,400 solar panel which actually cover 75 of the required hot water energy.
Mishrep, that means a place to drink water, is at the heart of water treatment used by many Qataris.
It's also something from our traditionals and heritage to really care about water. In order to do that and really to preserve the water, we have 2/3 of the water that it is needed is not a drinking water. So the water that we use for cooling, the water we're using for toilets, flush toilets, the desalinations that comes from the government, that's the only one that we use for showers, dishes and sink. Everything else that needed for the projects, for the cooling, irrigations and flushing the toilets, come from the treated water.
All structures in Mishrep are traditional Qatari ones which have been there several years back.
Sharib have actually developed 100 different pattern. We are basically continuing what we have. The traditional architecture is very grounded and solid, and that's what we're trying to achieve. Continuity means that we have an alleyway.
And buildings in Mishrep is in a particular style.
The modern way of building the houses is you have the house and the surrounding is the space. But the traditional one show you the opposite. The building is all around and the space is carved out in the center where you have the courtyards. Now that is the modern way, but we wanted to go back to the traditional way of building around a space and a courtyard.
Mishrep at night is a different city in Qatar, with downtown at the center of attraction.
Thank you, Smart, for that report. Before we go, viewers, just to inform you that the funeral of Professor Enotan Jong, who was a member of the National Communication Council and also the founder of the Departments of Journalism and Mass Communication of the University of Buea, began today in Buea. The corpse of Professor Eno Tanjong was removed today from the Boya mortuary, the Boya Hospital mortuary to the Moliko Municipal Stadium for funeral rites, which began with Holy Mass. Professor Eno Tanjong will be buried tomorrow in his cherished native village. Fortabe is in the Manu division of the southwest region of the country. Rest well the Pope of GMC and the man who made GMC a family. Thank you so much, viewers, for always being there. Don't go away. Our programs continue. You will be meeting Serge Alengotu in the other studio for the continuation of your sports program, and also live reports from Qatar, and Julien Bedbisai will be with you. That would be at 8 p.m. for the news in the French language. Bye-bye for now, and stay with us on Equinoxe Television.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.